Hello, Assalamualaikum to all of you. My name is Azlin. I'm from Marketing in Asia. So today I'm going to moderate a topic, a very key topic, important topic. And the topic is how is Muslim online consumer behavior changing? Uh, after post COVID-19. So now with me, I have uh, four key panelists from Malaysia, from Indonesia, from Philippines, and also Singapore. But before that, I would like to share with you our main objective first. So for today, since the topic is very crucial, I want to highlight three key points that we want to get from this conversation. Number one, how has the consumer behavior changed in this new era, new environment? So that's number one. And then number two is how are the key challenges that brands face is really satisfying, insatisfying, evolving customer expectation. So how do we handle those incoming demand that is being evolved? And number three, how can brands continue to deliver great customer experience out of this? So without further ado, I would like to introduce you, our key panelists for today. Number one, we have Pak Arif from Mastercard. He's based in Indonesia. And second, we have Sinan from Digital Durian. Third, we have Christopher from Zalora. And four, we have Dr. Nur Hafiz from Crescent Rating. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this, I would say, a very extremely key session.
Hi, Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. How are you guys doing so far?
Hi. We are doing good.
All right.
All right, we're doing all right.
Okay. As you know, now we are in a very weird kind of era where the pandemic really hit hard the whole nation, especially here in this part of the world. So I would like to get some information out of you guys. How do we do this? How do we handle since the COVID is going to be behind us soon? So we want to be prepared. I would like to ask Pak Arif first. Right, I have this question standby for you, okay, Pak Arif. Okay.
Yeah.
And some researchers say that after this COVID-19, the consumer behavior is going to be here. They're going to stay. Yeah? It's going to be here for good. So, what's your opinion on this when it comes to the consumer behavior? I mean, especially in your country, Indonesia, and can you maybe share more some example about this?
Thank you so much, Azlin. Let me introduce myself. My name is Arif Kusuma. I'm the VP Account Management, sort of based in Jakarta, Indonesia. Yeah, this is very interesting questions and has been asked by a lot of people, So just to set the context that the number Muslim populations in Indonesia based on what we call it BPS. BPS is Bureau Statistic in per December 2020 is around 229 million people. So as you know that the number of hijrah people means for the obvious reasons that they don't do banking like conventional. They do banking more on the Sharia. So the number has increased 5 up to 7% for the past 2-3 years. So yeah, I think that's one of the trends. And also based on the Muslim research study, this is closed loop research that there is a shifting in consumer behavior, especially for Muslim community. Number one, that even though this is a crisis pandemic, but there will be what we call it, opportunity, and also shifting, in this pandemic. So the obvious reason is what they call it digital adoptions, and people, when they do shopping, they do through the digital payments. So that's number one. Number two is the number of small micro and medium enterprises, what we call it UMKM. Because this UMKM, the total per December 2020 is roughly 65 million. And with less than 50% out of this 65, they have adopted, what we call it digital adoptions. And this, small, medium enterprise, they contribute up to 60% to the nations. And the other, challenge is also because of the digital adoptions, cyber security is becoming, some sort of critical to anticipate this. So definitely, to answer your questions, Azlin, definitely COVID has changed, the way we do business and the way we live. Even today, for the past 15 months, every center of activities happening, in our house, like in Mastercard Indonesia. I joined last year. Even until today, I still work, from home. All my kids, high school, universities, a master degree, they all do it, at home and online. So that's why this is the trend that becoming, very obvious, that the shifting is more on the digital adoptions. And also there is a trend that what they call it the new customer. Basically, these new customer that like to do it everything online, seamless, frictionless, safety, secure, and convenience. So when you see the customer behavior for the past 15 months, the consumer behavior also shifted, their spending activities, from cash to contactless, payment, and also online shopping. So also this, changed the landscape because of the health protocol, sort of speak, imposed by the governments. The trends now is more on the contactless transactions. So for the consumer habits in Indonesia, there are several things happening. I think I jot down about 6 to 7. Number one is there is reductions for the use of cash. So now people tend to do the cashless payments, such as using a digital, wallet, and also contactless, due to the social distancings. And if you look at the Bank Indonesia, statistic, the value of e-money transactions has reached 200 trillions, equivalent to close to 14 billion in 2020. Now is growing almost 39%, from 145 trillions, equivalent to 10 billions, US dollars in 2019. So Bank Indonesia, our central bank, also predicts there will be uptake digital transactions, improving on the e-commerce and e-payments, growing roughly 32.2 and also 32.3% respectively. So there is about half, population in Indonesia connected to banking systems. It means that the trend of cashless increasing, and also this pandemic accelerate the adoption of digital payment. So the other one also, the demand for alternating payment, for channel, payment channel, and also flexibility how they pay. And also, these new customers, they are aware of this, what they call it security and data privacy, because as you know that what happened last year, one of the prominent, marketplace, there was about close to 90 million data breach, using our national identity cards. And also, consumer prefers e-commerce during the lockdowns for all generations. Myself, I call it colonials, millennials, and Generation Z. So in Indonesia, based on the data, about 30% people has increased their online shopping habits during the pandemic, and about 40% intend to continue their online, shopping habit post-COVID. So spending priorities have been redefined. It means Muslim consumers, especially, they buy based on the value. Now, the value is more on the healthy product and groceries. So in Indonesia, based on the data that during 2020, 28% use food and grocery delivery service, more, and also 70% intend to continue this habit post-COVID-19. And also the rise of BNPL, what we call it buy now, pay laters. Mastercard now is having a strategic alliance with Pine Labs in 2020. So Mastercard research shows that 43% consumers in regions would be willing to increase spending by at least 15% if they were to pay installments. So from the consumer point perspective, it will give their flexibility to manage their cash flow. From the merchants also, they call it influence consumer buying behaviors, and also to increase the average ticket size. So that's the the consumer has shifting in Indonesia, especially for the Muslim customers. Thank you.
I think we can see this is like really amazing, right? We are being forced to use all the technology that is in our phone. Some tools, some key tools, or the payment tools to order food, schools, and so on. So I'd like to move my question to the next person, which is Dr. Nur Hafiz. I would like to understand more what would be the role of this tool, this digital technology on the consumer behavior, after COVID-19. We are not able to get what is actually their role in our life. Doctor.
Thank you, Azlin. So I think that's a very important question that we have to try and address. Technology certainly is a driver when it comes to consumer behavior, along with other drivers like social changes, legal changes, political, and so on. Technology has always played a key role in defining consumer behavior and also in services, right? And to your question on online space itself, really, when we think about it, the online space is also changing. We are not just talking about websites, although they still play a key role, and we are not also just talking about payment modes, right? And the e-commerce side of the story. For instance, when we talk about online space, we have to talk about virtual reality, VR, for example, and headsets like Oculus. With those headsets now, we can explore the world from wherever we are. So in that sense, we are able to immerse into an online space, truly immerse into one, like we've never done before. Another example would be, for instance, augmented reality with AR and applications on the mobile phone, like you just mentioned. We can now bring the online space into our offline dimension and make it better with more information to bring it into our part of the world. And even traditionally, when it comes to online technologies and digital technologies, we can also now build interfaces like we've never done before. So for example, I think we've seen those travel portals, those circle portals in which you are able to look via a live stream to those persons on the other side of the planet, wherever they might be. I think there's one now in Lithuania. So these are also creative approaches into adopting these technologies, especially in the environment that we're in, and probably post-COVID as well. So in all these examples, the digital technology really enables consumers to adapt based on the existing conditions that we're in, so that they can carry on with their lives, their lifestyles, just like what we are doing now, right? We're using technology to still carry on with this summit, this conference. So there's certainly that adaptation that's involved, at least for now. And when it comes to post-COVID, or even some say it will be endemic, it will be part of our lives. We won't really get over this. It's something that we have to accept and move on and live together with. These technologies certainly help us to discover new experiences that we've never experienced before. So these really represent opportunities themselves. Interestingly, another point to this is with these digital technologies, we are also able to gather insights into consumer behavior, faster insights, more real-time insights. So these digital technologies allow a feedback to which we can then adapt fast enough, because we're still trying to figure out how things are changing and whatnot. And certainly with digital technologies like those that I mentioned earlier, along with websites, social media, and also commerce platforms, we are able to better sense how customer behavior is shifting, what are possible regional differences. Like, for example, it could be that Muslim consumer behavior in Indonesia is different from that in Malaysia and then in Singapore and so on. Now, digital technologies allow us to also figure these differences out to really offer that personalized experience. So that's about, in summary, in terms of the role of digital technology. It's always been part of services. It's always been part of travel, and certainly in the next 5 years' time, it should be an interesting era as well, because in 5 years, many things can happen with technology. In 5 years, the things that we view as really the upcoming technologies, they might be replaced by totally new things, right? But I think in essence, what we can expect is probably as well better integration of these technologies, better integration with those that I mentioned earlier, and with websites, and also with the Internet of Things, IoTs, where the technologies can give you feedback, able to communicate with you in return. So this better integration as well would certainly help consumers to better experience services that are really catered to them. So going beyond customer segmentation on mass, on geography, now we are able to truly tune in to that particular customer itself. And of course, for service providers, this is really an opportunity to deliver really exciting new experiences that has always been perhaps aspirational, to truly deliver a service experience that they want and so on. So it's certainly an opportunity as well for the tourism sector with technology.
Yeah, great input, Doctor. I managed to catch two keywords from you. One is actually adapt. The other one is experience. I'd like to ask Sinan, since he has a vast experience with his Omar and Hannah, and also Didi and friends. Even my kids also love your stuff. Okay, and there you go. and when we talk about adapt and also experience, nowadays people don't have enough money. Some are losing jobs. Some has lost their job for a few months now, and the money is very tight. And when they want to buy something, they will do a lot of research. They will scan through, they will browse through, review stuff, just to get enough knowledge about that particular brand before they make any purchase. Now, I would like to ask you, from your experience in this entertainment in Malaysia, South Asia, and some of the countries beyond Asia, what does it take actually for a brand to really go up in terms of the level that they have to prepare in order to meet this kind of expectation from this consumer, which are very difficult now when they do a lot of searching for knowledge of that particular brand before they buy. How do we as a brand are able to go up to that level so that we are able to convince them to make the purchase?
Right. Thanks for having me today, and thanks for the introduction. For you those who don't know, this Omar Hana here. We're actually a Islamic cartoon, and the cartoon is Islamic Essence. More than 3.5 billion views around the world, alhamdulillah. So I think to answer your question, I think definitely as brands, right? Pandemic, post-pandemic, before pandemic, I think the main thing which we need to do is create value. And that's the base of it, whatever it is, and in whatever situation. So creating value is a main point, in what I think. And with the current trend of people going online, and even before the pandemic, people already went online, right? But now it's just even more intense. But for me, it's a good thing, and because good brands who create good value will actually have good talking about. And if you don't create great value, if you don't create good value, then you'll be scared about what happens on the internet. And for me personally or professionally, I take it more as a plus, because you don't even need a website now, and all brands need to have websites. But even if you don't have a website, and peer-to-peer or social media, right? It's actually a bigger marketing tool than your website. And if you create great service, if you have great products, if you create value for people, and it comes to a point where people actually talk about it and post it on the social medias and beyond your own social media, then it's even better. So when heading is actually, as brands, we need to create value. We need to find ways on how to create talking about, right? How do actually people talk about our products? And normally most of it is organic, and normally everything comes when you have a good product, when you have a good brand. But there are ways to actually induce that, and creating forums, talking about, using your own social media, working and doing collaboration. I think that's one major thing, right? Which is very important during this pandemic, because physical contact. I mean, for us at Digital Durian, even though we're digital content, but it also hurts us during COVID, because there's a lot of baskets which we actually get revenues from sponsorships, we get revenues from merchandise, right? But nonetheless, doing the right thing, working with our partners to get them online and to get people to purchase our products online, I think that has been very important. And so yeah, I think that's basically it for me. Good brands use this opportunity to market themselves even better, right? And if you can create talking about, that would be even better. Good talking about, of course.
Of course. Value proposition is, of course, one of the most important key, I would say, elements in, as far as actually marketing is concerned. Value is key. They buy from you based on that as the first reason. Now, when it comes to a cool website, like you said, one of the best websites that I've seen is actually from Zalora. So I'm going to pose a question to Chris. Because for the past few months, I've been receiving, reports from Zalora, and we have been displaying reports about consumer that you have actually produced, and you launched also a new podcast quite recently. So I would like to ask a question that relates to the modest wear. where I think it is one of the fastest growing segments as far as the e-commerce is concerned. Um, I would like I would like to know one question, which is how do you see the difference between the current trend now when there's virus happening, they make a purchase now compared to the trend before the pandemic? How do you see the trend, Chris?
Thank you so much, Aslin, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to start talking about what we do in Zalora. And, from the moment we were born in 2012, we're celebrating our 10th year next year. We've always had the modest wear category as an important, category within our shopping platform, primarily because when you look at Southeast Asia, it's a huge modest wear market. I think a lot of people tend to forget that when you combine the populations of Malaysia, Indonesia, and Singapore, and to a certain extent the Philippines, we have a really large modest wear consumer segment. And I think providing them with trendy, affordable modest wear was something that we wanted to offer. We were first in the market to actually go on with some of the designer collaborations. We made some of the designer RTWs way back in 2012, and we're still continuing that trend. With regards to how COVID-19 have impacted, I think I agree with what all the three speakers before me have said. I think, it did have an impact both on consumer behavior and both on the platform itself. I think when it comes to the platform itself, it's not a big secret that a lot of people and a lot of brands have gone online and primarily had to pivot towards online. I think as was mentioned is that it's really an opportunity, because one of the things that makes online a little bit better compared to offline is sometimes it does transcend borders. It does transcend a lot of the traditional barriers. And I think having that ultimate reach will always be good for a certain brand. But with that, we say that also consumers have changed preference or have changed shopping habits from COVID-19, pre-COVID-19 to right now. I can't say it's post-COVID-19, but what we have right now, because we're still not out of the woods yet, but we've already seen significant changes in how people consume. For example, when we look at how we've seen the basket size or the number of items that a modest wear consumer buys on Zalora, we've seen there's a slight dip to it. For example, the basket value have decreased by 15% and the number of items have decreased by 12%. But what we've seen overall is that there's still an increase in actual sales. That means more and more people have been buying modest wear online, which is around 400% increase between 2019 to 2021. It's a huge increase. But at the same time, we see that they're buying more affordable products, because the most popular bandwidth that we've seen are the bandwidth between 15 to 29 USD dollars worth of clothes. So we've seen that they're still buying, but they're buying the more affordable route, which basically was mentioned earlier. Value becomes a key proposition. But more important than that, I think one of the things that we're seeing is that since it's sticking now, and we've seen that even payments have changed. Before, COD or bank transfer has been popular in markets like Indonesia or Malaysia, but we're seeing the popularity of wallets taking a big center stage. We've mentioned, the buy now, pay later programs. We've seen, different digital payments as options for most consumers. And we've been seeing an uptick of this, the use of it. Even on Zalora alone, you can choose whatever buy now, pay later platform you want even. So I think having those kind of platforms have democratized access to a lot of these products. But I think one other thing that I'd like to raise is when you look at how it opens up to more people buying online. Before 2020, we've already seen Southeast Asia as the next hotspot for e-commerce. We've always said that, it's the next big thing. It's an untapped market, and it's at the infancy stage when it comes to e-commerce. But what it has done right now is that now that more and more people have started shopping online, and we've seen reports that says it's going to stick even after the pandemic because they find convenience to it, we've seen that there's an opportunity for you to grow the brand. Some brands, local brands, actually have gone even regional because now they can access consumers from outside their borders through online platforms. But what's interesting is that part of that consumer behavior shift is we're seeing, for example, demands for sustainability. So I think with regards to adoption, we're seeing now that the e-commerce consumer is also becoming more sophisticated and asking for more services. They're looking for more convenience, and as mentioned, sustainability was a big surprise for us. 5 years ago sustainability wasn't even an option, but now consumers are even asking for it, which basically made us respond to it by producing the first sustainable modest wear collection way back in Q4 in 2020, wherein we've introduced Earth by Zalia. And we're seeing that this has become a very popular option for a lot of modest wear consumers across the region. So we're seeing that the modest wear consumer has been shifting online and it's now adapting and is becoming a more sophisticated online shopper. And I think the last point I want to point out is that if you are building a website, I think we've seen through our data that close to 90% of people who buy from Zalora are actually buying on mobile apps. So I think when you do have your own websites or you go towards doing marketing strategy, always think mobile first, primarily because the region has proven to be a mobile first region. So in order for you to reach as many people as possible and to become a friendlier brand to browse through, always think mobile first when you talk about Southeast Asia.
Oh, impressive, yeah. Okay, now we are going for. I think I'm going back to ask a question to Pak Arif. But this time, I think we want to speed things up a bit with much more shorter question. As you know, Pak Arif, when we pay online, we are bound to share a lot of stuff, bank account, PIN number, and this and that, addresses and stuff like that. So it's like a double-edged sword. While we see some convenience there by just waiving it, but at the same time, we are giving too much. My question is, how do you see we as a consumer are being protected? I think you are muted, Parif.
Sorry. Yeah. Thanks for the questions. As I mentioned earlier, that when we speak about e-commerce, online shopping, and also digital payment, of course, our focus also on data security and also cyber security threats. So how this give customer like safety, security, and convenience when they do payment end to end. So using the data 2020, so basically there is an increasing number on cyber threats, ranging from phishing, malware, and also ransom. So if you look at the data that the cybercrime, this cybercrime will cost the world basically up to $6 trillion annually by 2020. So if you look at the data between February and May 2020, over 500,000 people globally face a data breach. So according to Indonesia National Cyber and Code Agency, we call BCCN, that there is a cyber attacks for the companies, the government, including individuals in 2020 with the number of close to 500 millions, almost double the figure from 2019. So what Mastercard has done this for these cybersecurity projects, especially for the small medium company. Number one, we also brought what we call it the Global Cyber Alliance for SME Cybersecurity Toolkit Indonesia. Basically, this toolkit is to empower the business owners as the first line of defense against these cyber threats. So number two, we are building also network professional to support the small, medium enterprises as the first line of defense against these cybersecurity threats. Number three is Mastercard Center of Inclusive Growth, collaborating with institution called Infra Digital Foundations, based in Bandung, West Java, to hold cybersecurity training for young students. So this has been done through Mastercard Academy 2.0, with the government of West Java, launched in December 2019. So as part of our commitment against security, cybersecurity threats, Mastercard also rolling out what we call it FDS, fraud detection systems in Indonesia, and also other countries in ASEAN and APEX to give what we call it vast value-added services for consumer to do transaction end-to-end with safety, security, and also convenience. Thank you.
Let me see. I think that sounds better, but still, I heard from I read some articles a few days ago that even LinkedIn also some of the data are being leaked. So I'm not sure whether it is true or not. Okay, my next question is to Dr. Nur Hafiz. You were mentioning earlier about next say 5 years down the road where everybody is back on street. The shops are now back open. How do you see the role of the tools that we have at the moment?
All right. So quickly for that one, I think we can look at it from both the developer side and the consumer side, and maybe some key things to take note for either side. I guess for consumers, like Pak Arif mentioned, privacy, data privacy would always be something at the back of their minds. But history has shown us so far that if there is value and if the consumers understand what the benefits are, they are able to weigh it. And they might then just adopt that platform together. So they must be able to understand what is that benefit associated if they were to forego that privacy that is being talked about. And that platform must also be easy to use. They must be able to not just understand the benefit, but it's easy to use that website, that mobile app, whatever that might be. This ease of use is also critical for consumers. So in 5 years' time, technology still need to have these qualities inbuilt in them. And I guess for companies and for organizations as well, while technology is bound to progress, but organizations and companies need to continuously invest in these technologies. History has also shown us that this is not an automatic thing that's going to happen. If organizations, if governments, destinations do not invest, then their level of technology competency, their level of technology capabilities might decline. Just one quick one before I end my session. Artificial intelligence was first started in the 1950s. And only today we are talking about chatbots, virtual assistants and all that, simply because we were distracted along the way with other stuff that happened, right? And so with this continuous investments, hopefully we then can achieve that experience, those experiences that we were talking about.
Right. Okay, Sinan, you are having a presence not only in South Asia, I believe you have also some presence in the African countries, right? Then I would like to highlight a bit on the value that you shared earlier. When you create content for this specific kind of countries, you cannot run away from. You have to personalize it in a way to really extract those value and share it with the community. So my question is, what would be the criteria of this value creation that you need to create for each particular countries in order to have the best of your content?
Right. I'll just add a little bit on the data part. Right. So we are big in Malaysia, Indonesia, definitely Middle East. But actually, our English channel, most of the views actually come from US and UK.
Wow.
And it's around 40% of our views come from the US and UK. So it's alhamdulillah, it's doing very well. So when you come to localization, to actually understanding the market, there's no one size fits all. And that's basically different places have different cultures and different wants and different values or different needs in a way. Luckily for us, it's a bit easier because our content is meant for children 6 and 7 and below. And so they don't have much different wants at that age. Yeah, so but nonetheless, and I think so we haven't actually done a lot of localization, except for dubbing. But when we started Omar Hana, and we actually took around, I think, 6 to 8 months to actually study all the countries, not all, but our target countries, and we wanted to make Omar Hana, our product, a product which, when a kid in Malaysia watches it, he can relate to it. When a kid in UK watches it, they can relate to it. And even though we started in Malay first, but we already had that in mind. So by doing that, actually, Alhamdulillah, it's working, and views from all around the world. We also actually even have it in Urdu in Pakistan, and the views are going up pretty much. So I think Alhamdulillah, it's working. But to your point, I would actually say that going local is never a guessing game, right? It's always about looking for data. It's always about doing surveys, understanding the market, and the key is you can never do it alone, right? So find local partners, find people who can actually help you, people you can trust on. That's another story. But never do the guessing game. So even for Omar Hana, even though it's just a kid's IP, and we did a lot of research, we did a lot of interviews, getting surveys from all around the world, and Alhamdulillah, it's proving the results are showing now. But again, it's easier for us because we're in that segment. I think for fashion, that would be much tougher, I guess.
Exactly. Okay, Chris. My final question is all about data, but this time is on the behavior of the generation that really purchased from Zalora. How do you see the difference between the baby boomers or Gen X or maybe Gen Y or millennial or maybe Gen Z? How do you see the difference on the purchase behavior?
I think thank you, Aslin. So I think right now, as you mentioned, you've received a lot of press announcements from Zalora lately. And we've really upped our content game. I think when you look at the majority of Southeast Asia, the consumers in Southeast Asia are largely millennials, actually, because it's a very young region. I mean, most of the consumers right now in the region, as it is younger than 35. That means we have a large pool that are mobile savvy and are, especially after the lockdowns, we've seen that there's an uptick in content creation and in content consumption. With this, the challenge for brands right now is really how do you engage with this modern consumer, wherein almost or more than half of the consumers in Southeast Asia are mobile savvy, are consuming this kind of content. And this is where, brands have to figure out, led by data, but also the data should also show you what kind of content they're looking for. We're fortunate enough that being a tech company, where we're able to have and pivot a little bit faster because we're a data-first company. But at the same time, it does have to have that crucial localized insights. And that's why having local teams across the market is pretty important, because I think when we launched the podcast, we wanted to have a Southeast Asian voice. When we had the Z Live, which is our live streaming shows, we even localize it. So there's a Friends in Fashion in Indonesia, Friends in Fashion in Singapore, Friends in Fashion in the Philippines, because what's fashion or what's, what each of this generation is talking about in their specific markets are very different from each other. And I think that kind of granularity in terms of data and research is part and parcel on how you want to engage them, and would be key in trying to succeed in the region, given the nature of the consumers in the region.
Well, thank you very much, Chris, Sinan, Dr. Nafis, and also Pak Arif for your answers. So there you go. I believe the consumer behavior do change. They are changing, or they have changed. We are forced. We are being forced to change, actually, and we have no choice but to use tools, some technology, mobile, desktop, laptop, just to, move forward with our life, our kids, our daily life, our payment, and stuff like that. So there you go. And at the same time, the brand has to move as well. They have to move along to meet this expectation. Some of the brands that I know, they are working extremely hard day and night just to migrate from from analog to digital, and it's not easy. But again, we have no choice. So here we are today in this era. So guys, I'd like to thank you very much for your time. So until next time, thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.